I was finally beginning to feel normal again. It had been a couple of months since Sarah and I broke up, and while the relationship had been a mess toward the end, I was starting to put the pieces of my life back together. That night, I was at home lounging on the couch with a beer in hand, watching a movie. It was one of those rare peaceful evenings where everything felt like it was falling into place again, and then, out of nowhere, came a loud knock at the door. I was not expecting anyone, so I was a little hesitant. Who knocks like that at 9 p.m.? I walked over, opened the door, and there she was, Sarah. She looked pale, like she had not slept in days. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smudged, and her eyes were red like she had been crying for hours. Before I could even say a word, she dropped the bomb. "I'm pregnant and it's yours." I froze. My mind went blank for a second, and then it exploded with thoughts. Was she serious? How could this even be possible? Sarah and I had not been together for 2 months, and during the last stretch of our relationship, intimacy was almost non-existent. The idea that she could be pregnant and that the baby was mine felt unreal. I managed to stammer out, "How far along are you?" She said about 2 months. Hearing that was like being punched in the chest. 2 months ago, we were still technically together, but everything had already started to crumble between us. I could barely recall the last time we were truly close. The timeline technically made sense, but something about it felt off. I invited her inside, more out of shock than anything else. We sat down in the living room. She seemed nervous, constantly fidgeting with her hands. I tried to keep calm, but my head was spinning. I asked her how she found out, and she told me she had missed her period, taken a test, and gone to the doctor to confirm. Then she said she had needed time to process everything before coming to tell me. As she spoke, I noticed she kept glancing at my phone on the coffee table. I should have seen it coming, but I did not. I went to the kitchen to grab a glass of water, trying to clear my head. When I came back, there she was holding my phone. "What the hell are you doing?" I yelled. She jumped, almost dropping the phone. "I was just checking the time," she stammered. "No, you were snooping like you always do," I snapped. That was the moment everything clicked. All the accusations, the jealousy, the constant invasions of my privacy during our relationship, it all came rushing back. I was already doubting her story, but now I was angry. I told her straight up, "If this is true, I need proof. I'm not taking your word for it." That set her off. She accused me of being cold and untrusting, throwing every emotional guilt trip in the book at me. "How can you doubt me after everything we've been through?" she cried. But all I could think about were the countless times she doubted me, accused me of things I did not do, and made my life a nightmare. I repeated myself, "If you're telling the truth, then you shouldn't have any problem taking a paternity test." She stormed out after that, screaming something about how I was a coward and threatening to tell all our mutual friends and my family that I was abandoning her and our child. I stood there stunned as the door slammed behind her. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying everything in my head, her sudden appearance, her tears, her accusations. Was she really pregnant? Was it even mine if she was? And why, after all this time, had she waited until now to tell me? As much as I wanted to dismiss it all as another one of her manipulative games, there was a tiny part of me that worried. What if she was telling the truth? What if I really was about to become a father? That knock on the door marked the start of a nightmare I did not see coming. What was supposed to be a quiet evening at home turned into the beginning of a storm I was not sure I was ready to face. I wish I could say I saw it coming. Looking back, there were probably signs, but at the time I ignored them. The truth is, when Sarah and I first got together, things were great. Better than great, actually. We met through mutual friends at a party, and it felt like we clicked instantly. She was fun, witty, and full of life. It was easy to be with her, and for the first year, it felt like we were in one of those cheesy romantic comedies where everything just works. We did all the classic couple things: spontaneous weekend trips, discovering new restaurants, introducing each other to our families. My parents liked her, and her parents seemed to like me. It was all so normal. We even talked about the future, getting a boat, traveling more, maybe even starting a family someday. At the time, those conversations felt real and exciting. I had no idea what was waiting for me. The cracks started small. At first, it was subtle comments about the time I spent at work or how often I hung out with my friends. I brushed it off as typical relationship stuff. Everyone has little insecurities, right? But over time, it escalated. She became more possessive, more controlling. One night, I went out to dinner with my best friend Mike and his girlfriend. Sarah was supposed to join, but canceled last minute because of work. Later that night, she called me in tears, accusing me of lying about who I was with. Apparently, she had seen a Snapchat story from one of our friends that showed us at the restaurant. I tried to explain, but she did not want to hear it. It turned into a screaming match that ended with her hanging up on me. That kind of thing became more and more common. She started questioning every text message I got, every phone call I made. It did not matter how much I reassured her. I was always guilty in her eyes. She would demand to see my phone, and if I hesitated for even a second, she would accuse me of hiding something. I thought if I was patient enough, if I showed her there was nothing to worry about, she would eventually trust me. But it only got worse. When I got a big project at work that required late nights, it became unbearable. My team included a few women, and Sarah could not handle it. She started calling me constantly, showing up at my office unannounced, and even following me once. She claimed she was just checking on me, but it felt more like she was trying to catch me doing something wrong. Then came the night that changed everything. I was working late with Emily, one of my teammates, preparing for a big presentation. It was already tense because we were under a tight deadline, and then Sarah burst into the conference room. She was crying, shouting, accusing Emily of trying to steal me from her. Before I could even react, she grabbed a vase from the table and hurled it across the room. Thankfully, it missed. Security had to escort her out. The next day, I had to explain the whole mess to my boss. He was understanding but firm. This could not happen again. Emily, who had been nothing but professional, was shaken and things got awkward between us. Some of my coworkers started treating me differently, like I was the guy with the crazy girlfriend. That was the moment I realized this was not just a rough patch. Sarah's behavior was affecting every part of my life, my work, my friendships, my sanity. I tried to talk to her about it, to explain how her accusations and lack of trust were destroying us. But she turned it around, accusing me of not loving her enough, of not doing enough to prove I was faithful. I was exhausted, mentally, emotionally. The person I had fallen for, the one I had imagined a future with, felt like a stranger. And yet, despite everything, breaking up with her was one of the hardest things I've ever done. A part of me still hoped she would change, that the Sarah I first met was still in there somewhere. But deep down, I knew it was over. What started as a picture-perfect relationship had turned into a nightmare, and even though I finally ended it, I had no idea that the worst was yet to come. The turning point came when Sarah accused me of cheating with Emily. By that time, her jealousy had already consumed every corner of our relationship, but this was a new level. I still remember the night it all exploded. I'd been working late at the office with Emily, pushing to meet a tight deadline on a big project. Emily and I were in the conference room, heads buried in paperwork and laptops, trying to finalize a presentation for the next morning. It was nothing more than two coworkers hustling to get the job done. Then, out of nowhere, Sarah showed up. She burst into the room like a storm, tears streaming, voice trembling with rage. She accused Emily of trying to steal me and hurled insults at her that I would not repeat to anyone. Emily froze, completely blindsided, while I tried to calm Sarah down. It did not matter what I said. She was on a rampage. The breaking point came when Sarah grabbed a decorative vase from the table and threw it at me. Thankfully, it missed and shattered against the wall instead of my head. That was when security intervened and escorted her out. The damage was done, though. Emily was visibly shaken, and I was left standing there in the wreckage of my professional and personal life. The next day at work, I had to explain everything to my boss. He was understanding but stern. He warned me that incidents like that could not happen again. I felt humiliated. My personal problems had spilled into my workplace, and it was not just me who paid the price. Emily now had to deal with the fallout as well. Coworkers started whispering behind my back, giving me side glances like I was some kind of circus act. I could feel the judgment every time I walked into a room. That night, I knew I had to end things with Sarah for good. I could not let her toxicity drag me down any further. I took a day off work, went to her apartment, and told her it was over. I explained how her lack of trust, her constant accusations, and her inability to see how damaging her behavior was had made the relationship unbearable. She did not take it well. There was yelling, crying, and a lot of name-calling. She accused me of never loving her, of using her, of cheating on her from the very beginning. She even threw some of my belongings out the window in a dramatic flourish. When I turned to leave, she screamed, "You'll regret this. I'll make sure you pay for breaking my heart." At the time, I chalked it up to the heat of the moment. People say things they do not mean when they are hurt, right? But in the back of my mind, I could not shake the feeling that this was not over. The weeks that followed were a mix of relief and dread. I blocked her number and all her social media accounts, hoping to finally get some peace. But Sarah had other plans. She started showing up at places she knew I would be. Coffee shops, the gym, even a restaurant where I was out with friends. Sometimes she would cry and beg for another chance. Other times she would make veiled threats, saying she would expose me as a cheater to everyone we knew. I tried to stay calm and rational, but it was exhausting. I felt like I was constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next confrontation. My friends told me I did the right thing by ending it, but it was hard to feel that way when Sarah seemed determined to make my life miserable. One night, she left a long voicemail. In it, she alternated between pleading for me to take her back and warning me that I would regret it if I did not. "You don't know what I'm capable of," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and desperation. It sent chills down my spine. I wanted to believe it was just empty words, but deep down, I knew better. This was not the end. Sarah was not the kind of person to walk away quietly, and part of me feared what she might do next. I thought I had already endured the worst of her jealousy and accusations, but as it turned out, I was only getting a glimpse of the chaos she was capable of unleashing. It was Friday night when Sarah showed up at my door, claiming she was pregnant. As much as I wanted to believe it was just another one of her dramatic stunts, I could not dismiss the possibility outright. The timing lined up, even if it felt like a stretch. But the way she said it, the trembling voice, the pale face, something about it felt rehearsed. After she left, I spent hours replaying the conversation in my head. She said she was about 2 months along. I tried to piece together a timeline, but all I could remember from those last few weeks of our relationship was the constant fighting. We barely even spoke, let alone had moments of intimacy. Still, I knew I needed more information. If this was real, it was not something I could ignore. But if it was not? The next day, I texted Sarah, trying to keep it civil. I asked her to provide medical proof of the pregnancy. She called me almost immediately, furious. "You do not trust me at all, do you?" she shouted. I told her it was not about trust, it was about clarity. She hung up on me, but not before calling me a coward. The following week was a roller coaster of emotions. Sarah's messages alternated between tearful pleas and outright threats. "I'll tell your parents you abandoned me and your child," she texted one night. Another time she wrote, "How could you question me after everything we've been through?" But through all the noise, she never provided any proof. No doctor's note, no ultrasound, nothing. It only made my suspicions grow stronger. I confided in Mike, my best friend, who told me I was doing the right thing by insisting on evidence. "You need to protect yourself, man. If she's telling the truth, fine, but you can't just take her word for it," he said. I knew he was right, but it did not make the situation any easier. Then things escalated. Sarah started showing up at my office again. One afternoon, she cornered me in the parking lot, holding what she claimed were ultrasound pictures. But when I asked to see them, she clutched them to her chest and said, "You do not deserve to see these if you don't believe me." It felt like another game, another way to control things. By this point, I had started researching legal options. I read about false pregnancy claims and the rights a father has or does not have until paternity is established. It was overwhelming, to say the least. I even considered hiring a lawyer, but something about that felt too drastic, at least for now. Finally, I decided to confront her directly. I told her we needed to meet in a public place to talk. Reluctantly, she agreed, and we met at a cafe near her apartment. I laid it all out. If you're really pregnant, I want to be involved, but I need proof, medical proof, and a paternity test. Without that, I can't move forward. Her reaction was explosive. She accused me of being heartless, of wanting to abandon my own child, of trying to humiliate her. The other customers in the cafe started staring, and I had to lower my voice to avoid making a scene. This isn't about humiliating you, Sarah, I said. It's about the truth. She stormed out, leaving me sitting there with a cup of coffee that had gone cold. I felt a mix of relief and frustration. Relief because I had finally stood my ground, but frustration because I knew this was far from over. Sarah was not the type to back down, and I had a sinking feeling that her next move would be even more dramatic. In the days that followed, I barely slept. My mind kept cycling through worst-case scenarios. What if she really was pregnant? What if I was wrong to doubt her? But then I would remember the countless lies, the manipulation, the way she had twisted everything in the past to suit her. I could not let myself be dragged back into that chaos, not without undeniable proof. As the silence stretched on, I started to wonder if this was her way of backing out, of letting the story fade away. But something told me it was just the calm before the storm. And unfortunately, I was right. It had been weeks since Sarah's dramatic claim at my doorstep. I was still tangled in a web of doubt and frustration, unsure of what to believe. Every time I thought I was getting closer to the truth, Sarah threw another curveball. She refused to provide concrete evidence of her pregnancy, yet she continued to send messages, some pleading, others filled with threats about exposing me to my family and friends. I kept asking myself, if this was all true, why wouldn't she just prove it? Then, one evening, everything changed. I was at home, still trying to figure out how to navigate this mess, when I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. The voice on the other end introduced himself as Robert. The name did not immediately register, but then he said, "I'm Sarah's ex-boyfriend. We need to talk." I froze. Sarah's ex? What could he possibly want? I agreed to meet him at a nearby bar, curiosity overriding my better judgment. When I arrived, I saw a guy about my age sitting at the corner table. He looked as nervous as I felt. After a few awkward pleasantries, Robert got straight to the point. "I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just tell you," he began. "Sarah and we were still seeing each other while you two were together." The words hit me like a punch. I felt my stomach churn, but I kept my face neutral, waiting for him to continue. He pulled out his phone and he stringed me of messages between him and Sarah dating back months. In one, she complained about me, saying I was too focused on work and emotionally distant. In another, she admitted she was staying with me because she was afraid of being alone. But the real bombshell came when Robert scrolled to a message dated just a few days before Sarah had shown up at my door. It read, "I have a plan. I'm going to tell him the baby is his. He earns well and has always wanted kids. He'll take care of us." I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. It felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. Not only had she been unfaithful, but she had also crafted an elaborate lie to manipulate me into raising another man's child. Robert seemed genuinely remorseful. I didn't know she was going to pull something like this until I saw your name pop up in one of her stories. I felt like you deserved to know the truth. I thanked him, though my voice was cold. Inside, I was a storm of anger, disbelief, and humiliation. After we parted ways, I sat in my car for what felt like hours, staring at nothing. I replayed every moment with Sarah, every accusation she threw at me about cheating, every tearful apology she made when I doubted her. It was all projection. Her guilt, her lies. That night, I barely slept. The next day, I called out sick from work. I could not face anyone, not with my mind in shambles. I alternated between wanting to scream and wanting to disappear. How could someone I trusted so deeply betray me like this? How could she go to such lengths to trap me? Eventually, I decided I needed to confront her. I sent a text asking her to meet me. She agreed, probably thinking it was another opportunity to manipulate me. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground. The moment she walked in, I could see it in her face. She knew something was different. "I know," I said, not wasting time on pleasantries. I talked to Robert. He showed me everything. For a moment, she looked like she was going to deny it, but then her face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she mumbled apologies. "I didn't know what else to do," she said. "I thought if you believed the baby was yours, we could fix everything." I could barely look at her. "You tried to trap me with a lie. You were willing to bring an innocent child into this mess just to keep me in your life. How could you?" She kept apologizing, saying she was scared and desperate, but I could not listen anymore. "This is unforgivable," I said, standing up. "I never want to see you again." I walked out without looking back. The weight of her betrayal was crushing, but at least I finally knew the truth. It was over, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. After my confrontation with Sarah, I thought I would feel immediate relief. Instead, I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, sadness, betrayal, and yes, even a bit of pity for her. What she had done was unforgivable, but seeing her break down made it clear that she was deeply troubled. Still, I knew I had to put distance between us for my own sake. I blocked her number, unfollowed her on every platform, and told our mutual friends that I did not want any updates about her life. It was time to move on. The first few weeks were hard. Everywhere I went, it felt like I saw shadows of Sarah, places we used to go, songs we used to listen to, even the random way she used to laugh at my bad jokes. But as much as her presence lingered, I knew staying stuck in the past would only hurt me more. I decided to focus on myself. Work became my escape. I threw myself into the big project I was leading, working longer hours and pushing myself to exceed every expectation. My boss noticed and hinted at a potential promotion. It felt good to have something positive to focus on, something that reminded me of what I could achieve when I put my energy into the right things. Outside of work, I started picking up pieces of my old life, the parts that had gotten lost during my time with Sarah. I reconnected with friends I had unintentionally distanced myself from, and even picked up running again. It felt like rediscovering a part of me that I had forgotten existed. There was something freeing about hitting the pavement with nothing but my thoughts and the rhythm of my steps. Then there was Emily. After everything that had happened, I had not expected us to grow closer, but we did. She was there during some of my worst moments. First as a coworker who saw the fallout of Sarah's behavior, and later as someone who genuinely cared about how I was doing. We started spending more time together outside of work, and eventually we addressed the unspoken tension between us. Our first official date was simple: dinner and a walk along the river. But it felt so different from anything I had experienced with Sarah. There was no drama, no second guessing every word or action, just two people enjoying each other's company. For the first time in a long time, I felt what it was like to be in a relationship where trust and respect came naturally. My parents were supportive, especially after everything I went through with Sarah. My mom was thrilled to hear about Emily, though my dad, ever the pragmatist, cautioned me to take things slow. "You've been through a lot," he said. "Make sure you're doing this for the right reasons." He was right, of course, and I appreciated his advice. Mike, my best friend, was his usual blunt self. "About time you got over the crazy ex," he joked, though there was an undertone of genuine relief in his voice. He had seen how much Sarah's toxicity had affected me, and was happy to see me moving forward. Still, there were moments when the weight of everything lingered. I would think about the plans Sarah and I had made, the future we once imagined, and how it all came crashing down. It was not easy to let go of the life I thought I was building, even if it had turned out to be built on lies. Therapy helped. Talking to someone neutral gave me a space to process the betrayal and figure out how to avoid falling into similar patterns in the future. One day, out of the blue, I got a message from Robert. He wanted to let me know that Sarah was continuing therapy and that she had moved back in with her parents. He also mentioned that she was expecting a child, this time his. I did not feel anger or jealousy, just a strange mix of relief and closure. I wished them well for the sake of the child, but I knew I wanted no part in her life anymore. As for me, life started feeling normal again, or maybe a new kind of normal. I began to focus on the things that mattered: my career, my relationships, and my own well-being. Emily and I continued to grow closer, and while I was cautious about moving too fast, I was also excited about what the future could hold. The scars from my time with Sarah will probably always be there, but they do not define me. They are reminders of what I have learned and how far I have come. Moving on is not about forgetting. It is about choosing to build something better. And for the first time in a long time, I'm doing exactly that.